Welcome to Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. Join Toby Malone and TJ Young, along with some special friends, as we puzzle our way through what we once thought was an unreadable book to produce a surprisingly listenable podcast. It is Monday, September 23rd, 2024. It has been 129 days since we have started reading, with 332 pages complete of 628, meaning we have 296 pages left to go and are 52.87% of the way through Finnegans Wake. Welcome to episode 23 of Wake, the podcast which flies high, hustles back on defense, and hits those corner trays, all in the name of fulfilling a long-held bucket list item, reading James Joyce's Finnegans Wake out loud just once. I'm your host, Toby Malone, joined once more by the man who no sickness could keep down for long, TJ Young. Hi, TJ.
Hello, Toby. It's great to be back. I've been away from the book for too long. I've been listening, but, sometimes when your body says lay down, you just got to be like, okay.
Yeah, we thought you might drop in that last time. I had hope, but, you got to listen to your body. That's important. Also, I'm not sure if you caught all my basketball references there.
I did.
Off the top. I felt like it's episode 23. Today is the 23rd, so I figure I may as well pay tribute to Michael and LeBron and all of those greats. This is the sportiest that this podcast will get. Just there. I'm a fairly sports savvy kind of person, but I know that James Joyce probably isn't high on the list of basketball fans' reading list. But
I don't know. I'm going to yell touchdown when we finish. It's going to be a series of sports scoring sounds that come out of my mouth. So,
and we are more than halfway of the way there. So, who would have thought it? But also joining us today in the second installment of the Toby's Favourite Former Students Showcase is one of the shining lights from my time teaching dramaturgy and theatre history at the University of Waterloo in Ontario. It is Carly Derderian. Hi, Carly.
Hi, Toby. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
It is great to have you on the podcast. It's so nice. I haven't seen you in a long time, but we stay in touch. And so when I was thinking of people who would like to read, and you've been following us on Instagram.
Absolutely.
I thought, we've got to get Carly on here. So that's great. So what is your relationship with Joyce and the Wake? Do you have any kind of relationship with James Joyce at all, or with this book?
Toby, I'm going to be totally honest. You are the only reason why I know he exists.
Well, should I say you're welcome or I'm sorry? I'm not sure.
I'll go with you're welcome.
Down.
It's an experience. Okay. We can share it together, and I'm here for it.
Absolutely. Well, I spent so much time introducing to the obscurities of dramaturgy back in college days that I felt as though, this is the next step.
Absolutely. And I am, like I said, I'm here for it. I'm open for it.
Have you had a chance to listen to the podcast yet?
I've been drowning in a medieval festival for the past 3 months, so it's been taking the most of my focus and working in being a choreographer as well as a performer myself, and putting all of my energy into that. And it's been a tougher year because it was my first time doing choreography for other people, not including myself. So it was very huge learning curve. So I've had a lot of different focuses this year, but
although when
I'm going to embrace this.
When you boiled it down for me the other day, you said you were getting ready to go off to do nerd stuff.
Oh, it's so nerdy. Like, you don't just go, I'm going to do medieval things because you just do it because you love it. You do it because you're here for it. You love the history, but you also love the fact that it's community oriented. It's all volunteer, and no matter what, I get to work with people that I've considered family for 15 years at least. I've been doing this since I was 14. So it's one of those things. It's hard to give it up. When someone says, I could hang it up and enjoy the summer, I'm like, well, that is how I enjoy the summer. I get to go play with swords for months at a time.
Well, I will say that you are in a safe space because TJ is also a Ren Fair kind of guy.
Oh, lovely.
I bought a sewing machine this past summer just that way I can get my skills up to the place where I can make my own costumes. So,
congratulations. I've seen a lot of amazing work recently. A couple of our castmates are very talented and just been blown away by what you can do with old curtains and couches.
I can tell you it won't be from me anytime soon, but one
Gotta start
day.
somewhere. Start
Exactly.
somewhere. That's all that
I've
matters.
I've been
And
making a laptop cases out of felt currently, just so I can sew straight.
Nice. Nice.
but that nerd stuff, it really brings the people together. So it's sort of
Absolutely.
nice to have a place where we can all sort of focus on. And you've also got your Twitch channel, No Way the Lost.
Yes, No Way
Uh,
the Lost. It is a variety channel. We stream from Thursdays to Sundays, 8 o'clock Toronto time. Except Sundays, we start at 7 Toronto time.
right.
It's a good
Okay.
time. Yeah, we're
We
we're
and we
just
will
we're
and
often
we
just chatting.
yeah, and we'll link to that in our show notes on our Patreon, so that anyone who's interested in getting on there to. And so, what kinds of things are you doing? Are you playing through games or?
We are very critical of the games we play. We enjoy everything. We want to play everything, but that also means we give honest feedback on everything as well. So there have been times we've been told to play the most trendy games, and they're not good. There are times where we're playing a game like Soma was a lovely example of a game that we were told it was one of the best horror games possible, and it
It's
was
okay.
yeah, it was okay. It was one of those, perhaps we were a little too well versed in our science fiction to really enjoy it. Like, to me, watching a Twilight Zone was a little more interesting than playing Soma. But you run into things like that, but then you also run into beautiful games like The Witcher or Cyberpunk, or currently we're playing through Elden Ring, and especially the new DLC, which is absolutely beautiful, and the artwork is spectacular. And we're also currently playing Valheim, a really wonderful Viking journey in through the spirit world. It's quite
I,
lovely.
I know all those games, and
Good.
I'm going to email you after the show the title of the game that I just recently wrote for. It's a dating simulator. Y'all can have a lot of fun on the channel.
I love that. I love that. We'll play anything.
Beautiful.
We will play anything.
So it clearly geeking out on things is the thing that brings us all together. TJ, what do you geek out on?
I mean, I'm still deep in the MCU. I know people have issues about it, but you know what? Agatha All Along is fun, and the Thunderbolts trailer dropped today on the day that we're recording this, and I watched that. Super excited about that. But, still a huge comic book nerd. I am deep in, I'm playing a game called Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, where I get to play an old Yakuza who has just decided not to be a Yakuza anymore and goes to Hawaii. He beats up people, but he also runs a little resort where he's trying to beat up people who are trying to use the island as a trash heap. It is dumb, and I am having way too much fun with it. It's like, hey, I get to turn my brain off at the end of the day. Any video game at this point where I can just turn my brain off is great. And I do blame your son for this, Toby. I have started playing Magic the Gathering.
No.
I blame your son. So between Magic the Gathering, Flesh and Blood, Lorcana, and Pokemon, I am deep in the trading card game world as well.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that's a different kind of geek. I mean, my geeking out is nearly all Shakespeare related. I think that's pretty much where I begin and end, and there should be no surprise there.
I saw a great 2-person Macbeth.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Here in Pittsburgh. Yeah, it was called Lord Lady Macbeth, and it was 2 people.
Oh, I heard about that. I've heard about that. Is it using Shakespeare, or is it a?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's great.
Hopefully, the people who did the cut refer to my book, Cutting Plays for Performance, available at all good Amazons now. I used to geek out on sports. For me, I was the stats guy. I had all the stats in my head of everything, but sports hurt me. They hurt me too much.
They do hurt you.
All of my teams are bad, and so it just makes me sad. We
still send texts about sports, though.
Yeah, but I'm trying to sort of not let it hurt me anymore. So, but so, do you think that us working on the Wake is qualifying as something that people would geek out on? Do you think this is geeking out right now?
1,000%. I mean, we've talked about Wake tattoos. You don't talk about a tattoo of something if you haven't geeked out about it.
Which is a fact that you would have picked up, Carly, if you'd listened to the podcast a little bit.
Feeling called out. It's
No,
okay. I
not
deserve it.
yeah, only a tiny little bit, but no, it's okay. Now that you're in the pantheon, you're going to have to go back and catch up. It's
Well, absolutely. There's so much I want to learn about, because when I was even just flipping through this, I was so reminded of actually Chaucer in a sense of like when you're reading it and it's like the accent comes out through the writing rather than just having to do it properly in the first place. It's really, it kind of sets you up for success when you're reading it. And almost when I was going over it last night, it seemed so sing-songy. And when it flows really well. And then there's parts where it's like, okay, I'm new here. That's where that break is, with these interesting words. I'm like, there's a tone to it that I'm just learning, and
yes.
it's really quite interesting.
That's actually my fear, that I'm coming back to this and I've forgotten everything that I've learned. So
no.
we will find out.
Don't laugh at me.
No. There's no laughing at anyone. But no, I feel as though geeking out is very, very natural and normal, and I don't really trust people who don't geek out on something. I think you've got to be excited about something. And it's interesting, speaking of geeking out, I came across a really interesting example of the dedication of the Wake in a very serendipitous manner this week. So a couple of weeks ago, we were asked the question as to whether the name Thornton, which is TJ's given name, appeared in the Wake, and we were like, it's not in there. It's not in there at all. And then a listener, Robert McBride, pointed out that Thornton does indeed appear in the Wake on page 63.
Oh, my goodness.
With Gaelish Gaul, Wadcar Blizzard's business Thornton had with that Keynes fender only to be answered by the aggravated assaulted. That was the snaps for him. I mean, obviously. And
nice flow.
Thank you. And the notes on finwake.com suggest that Thornton is a name familiar to Joyce, noting that Ned Thornton is the original name for Tom Kerman in Ulysses. But so we had that Thornton connection, which is fine. But while we were talking about it, we were saying, our favourite Thornton is not Billy Bob Thornton. We like Thornton Wilder.
Yes.
The playwright of Our Town.
Of course.
And then another listener, Brigham Barnes, on Instagram pointed out that not only was Thornton Wilder a Joyce fan, he was a Finnegans Wake super fan.
Oh, my goodness.
And so Thornton Wilder would attend Joyce conferences. He spent years of his life trying to come up with like a way of cracking the code, spoke animatedly on the subject, analysed the Wake obsessively. And most interesting, talking about geeking out, this is what I geek out. I dive down these dramaturgical rabbit holes. Most interesting is the fact that Joseph Campbell and Henry Morton Robinson, who were the authors of the Skeleton Key to Finnegans Wake, loudly accused Wilder of plagiarism. They accused him of plagiarizing Finnegans Wake when he wrote The Skin of Our Teeth.
They better not.
My goodness.
I love that place so much.
Yeah, but what they're saying, because the thing is, Wilder was writing his analysis of Finnegans Wake while he was writing The Skin of the Teeth, and Campbell and Robinson said that it was an Americanized recreation, thinly disguised, of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, end quote. They also suggested Wilder used, quote, important plot elements, characters, devices of presentation, as well as major themes in many of the speeches that are directly and frankly imitated, but with the flimsy veneer to lend an American touch to the original features.
They better leave Thornton Wilder alone.
Wow, they're coming for him.
But it's interesting though, because The Skin of Our Teeth is obviously about the Antrobus family, whose existence encompassed the entirety of human history, and they were suggesting the Antrobuses of Skin of Our Teeth kind of parallel the earwickers of Finnegans Wake and how all of human existence is wrapped up in there. And they actually physically petitioned that Wilder be denied the Pulitzer Prize for Skin of Our Teeth. Although he did win it, but then some people say that this is the reason why Wilder didn't win the Nobel Prize for Literature, was because of this controversy.
Jeez. Cancel culture everywhere. It's just dramatic.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and there's all these sort of, so for example, in the first line of Finnegans Wake, the famous first line of Finnegans Wake, it includes the word commodious, and the word commodious appears in the first scene of Skin of Our Teeth, and they're like, look, that word, you wouldn't use that. So that they're sort of making this big deal out of it. But Time magazine said they were trying to make headlines out what should have been footnotes, confusing influence with imitation.
Amen. Because here's the thing. The first time I heard the word consternation, I was like, I'm using the out of that word. Like that word is now mine. That is now lives in my lexicon.
Yeah. But and essentially Wilder was getting chastised for geeking out about Joyce in the same way that we are. And he was using it as an influence. So, I guess influence becomes a big part of what the writer's process is. You as a writer, TJ, you find influence all over the place, right?
Oh yeah, that's why I read and I watch theater, and it's funny, I even tell my students, I'm like, as you watch something, what's the thing you wish that you could do, and how do you make that your own style? It's the reason why we ask writers who your influence is, so that way we can see the threads of those authors in their work.
Yeah. So anyway, Campbell was, I guess, just feeling a little bit competitive with
Haters
Wilder.
gonna hate.
So serendipity that we talked about our favourite Thornton that isn't TJ being Wilder, because Wilder is a Finnegans Wake superfan. Who knew? Crazy.
The name was always going to bring me here, apparently.
That's right. So the other thing about this episode is we have another formatting challenge. A couple of weeks ago, we did the Night Lessons episode that had columns and footnotes and all sorts of interesting things. This one is laid out in the format, in parts of it is laid out in the format of a dialogue between two characters named Taff and Butt. And so I was trying to figure out the best way to lay this out so that for our reading, because I didn't really want to just be a back and forth since there's three of us, and so trying to figure out the best way to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide our structure up so that we're all working together to present this dialogue. So in each of the 5 sections of dialogue, we'll take turns rotating through a role. One person will read the character headings so that you'll hear them say Taff, and so that will be the speaker. One person will speak the stage directions, which often can provide a lot of contextual information, and then one person will read the text itself. And we wanted to rotate, and then we're going to rotate, because I didn't want just one person getting the bulk of the reading. I want us all to have a turn. So once it all becomes starts, it'll all become clear. So, and as I say, we'll rotate after each interlude. None of this is rehearsed, so we'll see how it all works out. As always, we are reading from the Penguin Modern Classics edition of Finnegans Wake, published in 2000 with a foreword by Seamus Dean. Today we'll be reading the second part of Chapter 2-3 from pages 333 to 354 in this edition. This is a segment entitled Tales at the Inn, a chapter obscured by heavy drink, with teller and tale melting into each other, and includes the tale of how Buckley shot the Russian general by the Oxford World's Classic edition of 2012, which also includes brief summaries of what is happening in each subsection, which we will address at the end of the reading. And now, without further ado, Finnegans Wake. Why, wonder of Wenceslaus, what o sesame open, vi durst doing, the doorst being, but how thingajerry means, but this being coming in the door, K? And oh, it is not him what foots like a glove, shoe hand shiner pad poromkin. Softly, Annie Slavey, shushi is Slogeneska. The age-crusty nummy feed, confusionary overinsured, everlapsing accentuated, Kate Catachin clopped Darcy Dobry back and along the dancing corridor as she was going to pim him way boy Wally, not without her complement of Cavernan man, between the two death-dealing allied divisions and the lines of ready present fire of the corked agains upstored. Taking in, giving the salute, band your hands going in, bind your heads coming out, and remote to herself in her surfs alone, a weir povey willowy, dreevy drawly, and the patter of so familiars, farabroads, and bohemians, as she sure knows, boof for booby boo, new uses in their musy fume. The Jamisons is a cook in his hair, and the Junices is a rappin' his hind, and the bulling dong caught the wind up. Dip. And the message she'd brought below from the missus she bragged above that had her agony stays outside her sari chemise, blanking her shifts for to keep up the fashion since the king of all dronnings kissed her beeswixt hands, fang, pierce me, hunky, I'm full of munders. Her thighs like a tubtail of mundane clothes, fed to the chaps with working medicals, and her birthright pang that would split an atom like the 40 pins in her hood, was to fade a huncher a howdy-dowdy, to mountainy mots in her amnest plain language, from his fane a one, his hot and tot lass, to pierce his rope-loop ear. How Padushka be prehazed, now the psones of his loins were a-winking and waking, and his daughter of the hush lilla-billa lullaby, lead us not into reformication with a pause in your thingdom of gory, O moan. Once after main, nonce at a time, with their Murphy's puffs she dursted with Knox Megs and the Branbury cake, for dour doughty dumpling obere matom beatom, and epsut the fot, and if he was wishtful to licture her caudle with shesty chack, from his Dorberg den noveny news from Knoll or Toplots talks, from Morian baths or Parrots prates cure for ensevelaced lethargies, Spix my spoon, and the veriblest spoon was 'twas her hour for the chambers in Sally Capodium, with love to Milost Panny Costello from XYZ, for to Folly Billy Bobbist Gidbits Pawsy Punsy, and she was a wanton for Demerara to take her genial glow to bed.
This is time for my tumble, reflected Mr. Gladstone Brown in the toll hut. It was chororistic from that man of Delgary. Dip. This is me, Vulcanite, smoking, profused Mr. Bonaparte Nolan under the Nate cup. One feels how one may hereby recognize the ground old mahogany dip. And this is defender of defeater, of defaulter, of deformer, and the funced man in Dangala, willing toned, and with this glance down on his browen, and that born appalled noodlum, the panelite pairs, Como della Meteor, Odding, Oliver White. He's as tiff as she's tight, and this ends he speak quite hoarse, dip. In reverence of her Midgius, the lady of the Comololius, as Magistu, our own one's golf stature. Prosim, prosit, to the crunk your nook. Oh, rum, it is the chunklest thing, how it pickles up the puntry in the jud. If you'll gimme your thing, to me I will gammy a scene to thee. Stay where you're dummy. To get her to go there. He banged the scoop and she banged the sugar, while the whole pub's pobble done a stare. On the mezzotint wall, with this chromo for all crims, showing Holdming's asses, sat by all Menex's men's canis to ride with him, canis that leapt at him, wooled and flundered. So the catties came and the catties game, as so gangs slug-nosed, and that hench-wench that hopped and dunneth there duffed thee, Durris. Silence. Yes, we've conned thou print in its gloss so gay, how it came from Fenderland's Yule to the day in its high taglet hoe and on the King's Highway with his hounds on the home at the turning. To Donnacombe faring, Milliken's Pass, when visiting at its La Chaparral, tastes the light of the waters from Carloman's cup. It tellyhows its story in their six of hearts, a 12-eyed man for whom it has majesticy, who since is died, drowned, reigned before the Isba. Ah, I, ha, heish.
As stage, to set by ritual wrote for the grim tale of the four of the Highnesses, the defiled carp, and the bulgared dozens of leagues in armor, or how Holospolus went to the parkland with Mabby and Sammy and Sunny and Sissy and Mops Varlet de Shambles, and all to find the right place for it by peep o' skirt, or Pipe o' skirl when the hunt called a halt on the Chevy chase of the ground sloper at the at that lightning lovemaker's thunder appeal till the ground between wandering weather and stable winds, Vestlands, Hostelins, Newsales, and Old Trigger's some, Bully Clubber, Bullhuggery, shut the Russian general. Let us propel us for the fray of the fray, us Verity. Co-nutrients, harulish, ah la la, co-nutrients, haruru, lalish, ah la la. The Willithon strum is breaking, the sound of murmuring. The Willithon strum waxes furiously. The whack-a-whacks of the strum, kato tehis, katao te-wana-wana. The strength of the Rossum Generad is known throughout the world. Let us say, if we may, what a weenie Wakaleen can do. Oh, 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 hi, ah, la. Proud, the Ruski, weren't they all of them then each in his different way of saying calling on the one in the same time Hibernin nights under Thanner that was having half for the laugh of the bliss. It sint Barbarous another dozen and once tale of a tubland wished unto him with its olives, ocoloms, and its hills owns ravings, and Tutty his tour in the nowhere's yard. It was before the Amy stood for Arthur Duke, for the figure in profane, and fell from grace so mattily for Phil the Fetter Fellows, they were saying. And it was the laying in the shirt in the green of the wood, where obelisk rises when odalisk fall. Major Thrift on the make, and Jolly Jack's spendthrift on the merry. Oh, Mr. Marthrin, they call where calling. They were calling. What a top-heavy hatcherin! And their army Maud. Then they were saying, these so pious. And it was cyclums, after he made design on the course, and he want to mess on him, Entralabo, and all taller Dennis. Back, cedar, and sides, and he applied. I'm amazingly sorriker. The whole bold shoulder boys, width for fullness, measures for measures, messers, masts, they were cycling again, and agone, and all over again. The lousy meters, the loudly meters, the lousy measlers, 6-1 bar ones. And they pled him beheightened, the firing. Dope. Melatonin, all tomaterum. When a tale tarries, shom shunter shavan. For all they would to pray.
Of this Mr. A. Tilleralaric, and these washwomen dapple-hued, Fionn Fjord and few feeds, who had insun keen and able in a spindle song aside. Nothing more is told until now, his Albroom hour, his Sahara of sad oak leaves. And then, behold, the next thing is, we are once more as babes a-wandering in a world made fresh, where with the hen in the story about, we start from scratch. So the truce, the old truce, and net and bust the truce, boys. Truth is stronger than faction. Slant, shin shin, shin shin. 'Twas of the grant, old gardener, qua golden medalist, Publius Manlius, federal private, his place in his poster, sure, they said, and we're going to mark it sore, they said, with a carbon caustic manner. Bequoth of the liberal oider at his petty corporal letso that hung caught napping from his bated breath, it was of him, my wife and I thinks, to feel to every of the younging fruits, tender roast like an Atlantic breast swells, or on a second wreathing, a bright torth, bright shimmery shaking for the wealth of his plough. And where the peccadillies at his wrist ends meetings, he'd be loving so lightly doves soiled the candidacy, me wiping eye sinks of his soft-boiled bosom should be apparent to even to our illustrate of his nullet to 90s. All to which not a lot snapped the Nolan of the calabashes at his whilom Uhart photognomist, who, why, by this sum taken, was as much incensed by Saint Bruno as that what he had consumed with was his own pagnoric, a what allowed about it. If was only a pipper-poff pigeon shoot that grey-soul get-runner, the man of century was bowled out by judge, jury, and umpire at Batman's biff like a witch-befooled legate. Dupe.
His aliments being alterally in disposition, with his three old her patrons' aid, providencers divine cow to milk feeding mlickmen, bonifaces to solifieds, what matter what all his Thursdays, Frodidze, or who holds his hat to harm him. Let Hutch just keep on under at being a vanished consistent, and let Anapol Livabelle prettily prattle, allude all her own, and be the similiminal salmon solemnly angled ingate and outgate. A truce to love calls, doled in war clothes, melee bags, things, and bleak hussin. Leave the letter that never begins to go, find the ladder that ever comes to end, written in smoke and blurred by mist, and signed of solitude, sealed at night. Simply, as says the mug in the middle, nay Brain, nay Noel, nay Billy, nay Bonnie, imagine twee quimmy woosin, suppose you get a beautiful thought and call them syllabus sub silence. Then imagine a stutterer saprutre him to bend one bigger master omnibil. Then lustily to the front and trit on the boxwoods like gay fetters dance. Imagine up to three longly lurking lobstarts. Fair instance, the woolly slayers. Pet her, pink him, play pranks with them. She will nod improperly smile. He may seem to appreciate it. They are all periodically drooksmen, sure to paltipois pote. Feel the woolies dripping out of your fingered thumbs. Say to yourselves, flowers have ears, hear, hear. So lowly. So these ease budlin. How do, dainty daunt limbs. So peach to pick on you in this way, prue and simple, prit and spry. Heyday too, Malstry Fonagon, in hopes you hi hit ha hi ta hi ti licks the mankey nuts. An oldloom, hoodlum, doodlum to yes, Don, Tegan, and her lug, who the bullocks brought you here, and how the hillocks are ye. We want Bud. We want Bud Budley. We want Bud Budley Bodley. There he is in his Boris Lunar, the man that shunned the rucks of Gareland, the man that won the battle of the ball. Order, 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 utter order, and tough. We call on Tancred, Artix, X Rex, Flavin to compere with Barbus Oleg Dune. Why? Order, order, order. Milster, Mouster in the chair. We've heard it since sung thousandths time, how Borgly shuck the Vrakshant Germanon for earn boys go brawl, a public plouse, citizen soldiers.
Taff.
A smart boy of the Pete Freeze 3211, looking through the roof towards the revolution of the Carmelite order previous to his hoisting of an emergency umbrellum, and by way of paragostolo solution in the rhino in his head.
Always flashing and crashing blurty Moriarty butcherud. What see, Buddy Welch? Tell ever so often.
Malt-ledge youth, clergy of Appellants, who, as he pied fair, is supposed to motto the sorry digested in taff toughness, or be degarest from ever and a day in his accounts.
But da, will shooning, till even so aften, see vasta pool.
Taff.
Promptly helping himself out of the cesspool with a yelp, Europe puts up his fury furzered hair.
Butly bitly, hum to our mountlings, conscribe him tillusk, und in his jubilant tubescence, the ground sapper with his soliday sight out on his molday side in. The Gugnier General in laut Lieutenant of Baltsky Amor, Amaltheus of Leportiho, Enduse parliamentarily language, the sailage of the Yelabs no don't palignol erdlesh, Sheltos and Weltas and Weltas agom. Sling stranislang, how Malorasius spikes her, coining a speak a spake. Not the setnick stuff that slimes soft Cyranouche, the good old gunshot monowards for mano simples. Tinkers tammet. They did oak hey do fo chang li mang when that man de arraign was big top Tom, saw tip tied bum boss pageant filler. Ejaculate, all the light, resemble the glowrings of Briant the Breath when the mollies make halfpence took his leg for his thumb. And may he be too an intrepidation of our dreams which we forgot at waking when the morn hath raised out Limpolove and the bleak frost chilled our ravery. Pook! Sing ching Liu Mang! Up go, Bobby Cop! Let's hear and remember the braze of Hold!
Drawling forth from his blossom where is mediabound of his minxestry, switches of on his gorscoper, fling where a hero Langthorn, fed up the grain oils of Arian, while his laugh nighs bank as that flash minds raise, and his lepa noise longer wedge wambles.
Ullablo! Sayo nera pokol san. Man had very dirty by am anoito, like old Dole the Icon when he cooked up his eggs in bacon. He get of it, and me got of it, and Algokes Chelovin gut de fudden. Povar old pitcherbed. Molodetius of Mentionnacht, Bellabert that pench my so. Bogkars and dem neat sar jam sant cant. Limbers afront of him, lumbers behind. While the bucks bite his doss, his heart bides the russ, till the bounds of his bays bawl the warning. So biter, so barker. He was enveloped, chromian fashion, with all his cannibal wappants, in his raglan rock and his malacoift bulbs big, and his varnished Russians, and his cardigan's blouse jagged, and his scarlet mancha cups, and his tree-coloured camouflage, and his pericopendulous gale storms. Here weeks higher pulches, Obriania's berompst, from cars and Polikoffs, the men's confessioners. Several shimmers pleasant times pains, Mumozel's Buckwald's look, tenter and likings.
All parasitariasis shookentar as his wagon holters, his bugler glaring star gapers, razzle dazzling, full of eyes, full of balls, full of holes, full of buttons, full of stains, full of metals, full of blick black blobs.
Grows Arctic, total bends, some garment guy. Insects appalling, low hum clang sin. A cheap decoy, too deep destroy. Say mangraphique, may say nay poor daguerre.
If that he hides, foregoden his nate of glores reef, farused amid the floorhurst of the fullest, his spent fish's livid smile, giving all a sundry, the burn fit of the doped.
Come, all you dupes of Wymingtown that graze the cause of man, a bear reigning in his heaven-spawned consummation robes. Rent, outraged, you leave, grained, ballooned, hindergored, and voluant. Erminia's cape-cloaked hoodooed man. First he steps, then he stooped, looked.
Struck strangling like a leal, luckily lubliner to Muramber by the seckle of the cruisy he struggled Ada Hilla op with what empoisoned Elmont de Zuma and failing Willan will nay nil nay that he was Polyp's barn in the minx of the Crumlin befont he was composed into the monks of the Vatican makes the holy polygon of the imp of the grease happer a little farther, a little sooner, a lettera cetera orque dobre.
Scutterer of gold, he is ruturious on every rotary, the liobed ski so sown of a fitchit, with his Walsh bush up, and his bony brogy bags.
After his tongues in his cheeks, with pen pointing out the rotten and impassable abjects beyond the mistomist towards Lisnal Holy, such as the jubilant Alps of the hoofed Riberoy, as where he and his Turlock may ever make a game.
The field of Carhags and that bloasted tree. Forget not the feld, for the lomendations of Ogrim, Warful Dunes Botham, here flurry glun, nigh, there fiery pass. Tack, with Gorilla Man a spear a spoor to prink the pranks of prim kissies, and the buddies behide in the byre, a la blah.
A black seer, he stroves the reglet, all the straggles for wife in the rut of the past through the windows in effigies kneeing after the black sheets in the infirmary and the relics of old decency from over drought.
O day of wrath, murther of minds, Silo Moy, Zululoi, Burnison Macmachown, from Osro bearing nose, Isga for sweet proletas on his swooth prowl.
Back to his petrol and pomp, swe geese we rest, no more apple holy, dude woot doke de doke.
Bruin a Boroff, the Hoony Moonger, and the grisliest man mickle in the mead of Erd, whose annal lives the hoyest, for he devoused the Leelas on the find, and he confronted Samp Tramp and marchant out of the drum boom of a nurse. Guard, Sir Finland, serve we all.
What with the psycho-fancies at the front of the wet wat and psycho-fumbers beholden the fair, ill certain between his ball tree chuds and the Rocha Shonerel, where he sees Bishop Ribbon Cake plus his Pollux prize going forth on his visitations of mirage or Miss Horizon, just so all our fancies daintied her on the curve of the camber, unsheathed a shadow-laced limber aloft to the great consternations.
Divulge, hidey-die, kittles, and howdy-do, pan, posh-bottom pull-butties. See that we sol or let Dargman be Luna as straight away as your aunt's folly me line, while ye post is going from piping Pubworth to haunted Hilborough on his Muggeties Zaravents, the Riss, the Ross, the Sir of all Russes, as my first is near to here, and my second is meet to Seedon, while my holes appears o'er Orleys. We should say you duns the polecat, bang on the boosh, gurg in the gorge, rap on the roof, and your floop is unbutt.
At the signal of his act, which seems to sharpen his innumerous melody, playing the spool of the little brown jog round the wheel of her wang, goes the milliner.
Buckily, buckily, blood-stained boyne, bim-bam-bom-bom. His snapper was shot in the rum-jar general, why the giggles he loved be-eyed him.
Obliges with the two-stop yoga-koga, some faux toy on the bones of for Ivory Girl and Ebony Boy.
The balaclava, Trotarovovich, I tremble.
But
With the sickle of a Psyche, but the humor of a hummer. Oh, Howard Odes through his color gold thumping to the full fret with his wallowing olfact.
Mortar, tartar, tartar, warter. May his bools grow wide as his skittles gets worse. The aged monad making a venture out of the murder of investment. I seen him acting sergeant what betwixt the scimitar star and the ashen moon. By their light shall how throw him. Piff-paff for puff-puff, and my pife for his scar. The Malachi way for gambling.
Up to his Kirkscrawl bid, an admirable verba-vosso-visual presentiment of the world-renowned Carla Home event has been being given by the Irish race in word. The huddled and enlivened stable crashers have shared fleet-footed enthusiasm with the paddock stare and ditches Tara while the muse was combing ground. Hippo-hoppery helioscope, flash Windsor places as the gates might see Medusas. That was burning briar, Mr. Two-Mass No-Ho-Holin for the common contrived satisfaction and the purports for amusement, telling the verily revered Father Epiphanes, shrine shiver of Saint Dohoros in Brown Bulmer, how assery as there's a bonum in your osteology. Back legs shivered in the racing Kendaldar. The saintly scholarist roasting guffawed of neurosaturals holler at his metanoic exomologossus tells of the chestnuts once again. Whittier Tom absolutionally rompty humpty successfulness. A lot of lasses and lads without damas or dads, but fresh and blued with collected boxes. One odd spare, one triflets to be shut. It is coppingers for the children. Slippery Sam hard by them, physically present. How Sumulder, morally absent, was slouching about in his Knaf diamonds, asking G. Max Knox and the Dummadries, a penance for your thoughts, turfers, to deck the ace of duds. Tom Tinker Tim, howbeit, his unremitted retainer. The seers are the seers of Samuel, but the hears are the hears of Timoth. Is in Boozer's gloom, sulkin steady in the sulkin tents. Baldall the curse, Bale Dale the day, and the frocks of chic sheeples and the shum marrying in samples. You see, a chef smith, temporal scandal stink makers, the Mendes from the Casabianca, and of course Mr. Frabe, Barras. Pardon the Inquisition, causus est quatus. It is the Valorium Dominical Briars. Why coif that weird hood? Because among no soever circumdances is to be apprehended the dusting washed Polatronag of the lost Gabernal Jagger Nath. Pam Jab, Gross Jumpener, Wood was Thud. Luck, 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 luck. It is the 1,000 to 1 ginny and gooseberries, lipful, slippery cup. Hold hard, ride siddle, tiddle Pitsy Riley. Gurra grunch, gurra grunch. They are at the turn of the fourth of the hurdles, by the horse of extras Halapololopolance is the shot of exclamation. Bumchub, Emancipator, the Creme Hunter, Major Herman C. Interwhistle, with dramatic effect reproducing the form of famous sires on the scene of the former's triumphs, is showing the eagle's way to Mr. Wyathites. 3 by Geldling's Homo Made Ink, Bailey Beacon, the Ratatouille, while Furstein II, and the other girl, Mrs. Boss Waters Levy Brink, too early spring dabbles by showing a clean pair of hides to Emin Spider. Cinca thinks to open her, to this virgin's turf, to this golden of evens. I even sought of Cinca think. Our locomarker, he is proformly annuised. He is shinkly thinkly shaking in his chains. Sat will be for Foltidi. This eridirum has being effered you by Brett and Tip and Bet, by Bet and Tip and Bet, are swap sick quack chancers and from top hole to bottom of the Irish race and word. Taff.
Awary that the first sports report of Lound and Reginald has now been after thoughtfully calibrated by a sagging spurts flash, takes a dipper end direction, and for tasing the Tiamore of Malays after the poignancy of Orangtononia, orients by way of Sagittarius towards Draco on the lure.
Andrew Collier caressed him on the Corsair with Boyle, Burke, and Campbell. I'll go on Strongbones' tomb. You had just been celebrating a camp to St. Sepulchre's march through the Ermimons retreat with the boys all marshalled, scattering giant's hail over the Curseway, followed along the route by the stanchions of the corpse. Tell the cold spells terreth, if you please, commie lad. Prefides Albonians. Think some ingain think, as Chicotere sate over the Galloweg Captain Forum, Horrocks and Ass, when Coldraings and macrames, a forward movement, Miles Nabolgan, and Dispatch.
But
Slinking his coat sleeves sewed out over his squad mutton shoulder so as to loop more life the jauntly man as he sensed the aggregate yup behind their whole scoop china's desperate noise totalage, and explaining a posteriorly how Oz Tulu was Val de Sombra below's hero, and he was in a Greek estate faux fire and extraction on the septuple side of him made spoil a priori his portiums.
Yes. Zonchizor. I don't think I did not porridge. Never you, brother me, for I scouted. Think you, ich nicht und nicht. Great Shepstakar, me full the rollady in the shiprit of a shicrips. Of all the quares and all the quim in the trengodes of those entaints their grandopers, that son of a Gonnog, with his Sabbath sopolets smooking his scandalous at bottoms of him. Fondant, I grant think after his obras, after another time about the icht and his igodom, he was legging bold-lugged from some pulvers poroch and yoking for a stool easy for two nemes plots a la fraca, and for to celebrate himself with an ultradung's heavenly mass at his base by a supreme pompship chorams and parish popes, the reverends and Alaverd Cromlechs. And when I heard his lewd brog recipeing his cheap cheatery gosped to century and century and century and suntry, I thought he was only haftera, having after his, broke forths, but be the homely cheruspoda podvas, I no sooner seen against of his frightenous than I was bibbering with veer a few versets of fooling for fjord for my fifth foot. Of manifest 'tis obedience in the flute.
Taff.
Though the unglucks are soon as gyming for to get him, jotting in hogly Ligius, hap a godlap like a soldiery sap, with a peak at his cue and a tear in his eye, and a bond of his back and a croak in his cry, as did jolly well harm lean o'er him.
Is not a thug who would. Weepon, Song of Solomon. Which Gothi and Sheepski thy damnty well know. Papast! Gabaman! Take the Carawild's bow. Yea, your patriot's last.
Butt.
Giving his skim-and-eyes twinge in a knuckle-downagement of this cumulative kick, strafe from the fire trench, studently drobs lead, Satonisiels ouchiochi, he change cores in duniforms as he is lefting the gat out of the big, his face glows green, his hair greys white, his blaze become brune to suit his cultic toilet.
But when I seeing him on his one ship fetch along with in hail that terrible tall with his Nitschekop and attempting like the brandy-logged Rudman cathartic lugging up and laying down his live pelts so crushingly like Mebbuck and at Messer, and exposing his old skinful self tail totem by maneuvering in open ordure to renew mature with the cowrods in their airish pleasantry, I thinked he was recovering breadth from some herd's quarters beyond the carcasses, and I couldn't ever never to tell the laird story, not of I knew the prize, if from lead or almany. But when I got in occupation of a few new of his old base metalism in action, peg pong by the varied lights of the storm-trooping clouds and the sheer flare of the battle-axes of the heroine, and mid the shield fails a wail of the bitter accents from the seraphim, and caught the fierce smell of his orals, Orangstank, a suphead, satrapped like Peter in Grest, Altiplar, my bill it forsook allegiance, gut bullet. And no, no lie it is. It is this. I was babbering and yakking, blabbering, bibble boy, me Morris, me skewers, me nas, me fight, tob, beat it, so long patom, culmincy, if ever misused, must use you now. But mech kolp, aurum of Irisrum, as I love our dear Darshi, I confess, with withhold pride, withhold prejudice, when I looked upon the Tsar of all Harusians, with the weight of his arg fallen upon from the travellings of his Tomuk and Ruckneast, the fates of the Bowser, there was fear on me than sons of Nod for him, and it was heavy he was for me. Then the way I immingled my immeneral Hermerians amongled his gospelous familiars, till Ashura Monsuras, I ant the arts too.
Taff.
As a matter of act, prepensing how such Waldmans from Burnius seduce country clowns, he is proposing Baragaparang after going knowing what he is doing after to see him pluggy well moitered as at a murder effect you bet your blowy knife before he does so surprised though he is.
Grot, Zot, you hidn't the hurts? But fun.
But.
Hearing some rather suddenly give 2 or 3 poovish sniff-snuff snores like a govalise fall sleep, he wait a wished to see mighty stirs, and then goes on cauldron like without asking for peace or anything a soul.
Mersmart, I met with whom it was too late. My fate, oh hate. Farewell, farewelling of the groan. I think of that when you smugs to be got.
Taff.
Who mean Willem at yarn's length so as to put a noge in the poacher, by while of a stockhand his hand and of rumour making, getting umptiums gatherummed off the scattered had been, lavishing Lagan on lighthouse words of silent power, susu glue biri gongos, upon the repleted speech salvers in keeping right, which thanks give me in napery norms non obstaculant, there can be little doubt have resulted in a mom's chance mini string of another guidance, my good to see.
Bom promifazo, shampam for piledi, and okososo for nipper dandy. Trink off this scup and be bloody offrited. Tibagat?
But.
He whipped off his chimbly pot, as lips love curling to the tongue-opener. He take cups the communion of sense at the hands of the forgiver of trespassers, and therein offer senilitates that Podifex mix him host with hariscipal hospitality, proffering into his pauses somewhat salt bacon.
There scares nud in this gnarled world a fully so spend as dilates for the improvement of our forces of nature by your very ample solvent of refracturing upon me like is bosun fiend. The other forgotten abbas in the Mulgaria are during this swing thing sight tailwizened how the fictional world in Freudian crematory is loading off heavy fuses and affubling themselves with munchkin slushes. The Nietzsche Novoglosh, how the spinach products are being tatuated up from the second comings of Antigrinst, Habenrost for Armel peace. How Albany Ibrahim wisheth Bella Sora and to a holy cryptmeth, while the Arumbians knives riders executes devilances rounds the hemisphere. Learn the nunstrucks. How old Yale boys is making revolutions for the cunning new years, never elding, still be guiding, never to mate to lend, never to ate celeries, and never to add solaries, and never to ant celeries, and never to aid celeries, with such harrow, with such yourself as Berkeley's shows Ruction Getherall, phone for Finio, too mellow, aftermorn, and your fumerals a Roselixon. Now, as he has been past the Buckthorn stock from Padhair Piper of Collingacuna, whiles they all are be, belting pots to Durban din for old Dadam, Dobstorm, and Tomb and Womb, hums, lums, agams, glumps agam, glance again, rise up road and hive up hill, and find your polyvolley, fancy pitchin' Ingles in the parlor.
Since you are on the verser rhetorish, say your piece. How bucklit shocking the roising girl Gurnerills, a ballet of ghastly power, a hov, and as of, and off like a gow. And don't like out the sad of Teff's pity a wick, not off got afsang is you, busbach, ocht yet heradahi, noth, endrith hay. Vesera good, buckle to, say sick, Ballygary, and fourscore socolrums are what you may coding to cool the scoop goods bloof. Hardy buddy fain. Thing man place here, hoid, wolst, somwow, shimwer, tinkle dinkle a deed. Uh Shin fine deed in the myrtle of the bog, twain fain main, stod up to slog. Free bondmen lay lurking on. Twin about Waddingham, for sneeze turum drappin. Twill be a reprints change awry, sir. Can you come it, bud?
Who in the cushlows of his goods forseeking hearth, ever fondlinger of his pimple spurk, is a nihilist of the ninth home stages, the baby bell in his bagastract upper going off all once, begad, lest he should challenge himself, be gone till English.
Horatio Toth. As said as would. It was Corporal Phalanx first. Hit it was of another time, a white horse day where the midrill met the bold Spugorm rough now, along with the first equinarchs and the Cholander. On the plain of Chorasan, at thou goest from the mount of Beckel, steep Nimorn, 1132 years, how the crow flees, and indeed, after a power of skirmishes, bloodities and godenites of them, when we sight the beast, Heghead, Waltlick, and Wheremy Whether, Moist moonful date man ever held dimsy day's death with, and high eye in the Riley Orish Cresizonis Malays Asunderist Sir Darithar Wool Welsh Leagues good Tom Keys years some while in Crimillion Wall samewhere in Ireland during me weeping still strums over the fresh ports of East Trept and the dangling garters of Marrowbone and daring my wapping still stunts on Boyston Moss, old style and new style, and heave a leap onwards. And when again Blaggera goes or lose the day, plays goat and banshee peeler. If Muscat's nose woos whiz, the great day and the druidful day comes San Patrisky, and the grand day, the excellent, fine, splendid, splendorous, long, agreeable, toast-worthy, cylindrical day, go sixth of the ninth, the happen hundred anam damius that hadjiz fizz else me is and will and was until the time lag is in its that's told in the Bach of the Alum to column kill all the prefaces of Aaron gone Bruguk. But Ice Truin, Tenure, and in conversation. We was lonesome like till we took out after the dead beats. So I begin to study, and I soon show them days reasons how to give the cold shake to they blight parishes and lay one over the beats. All feller he call all feller come longing villa finish. Tumbalo, how was I akala dad? From them banjo peddlers on the raid, getting up me anti-vanillas and getting off the stissus me aunties, boxerizing and chorus rusing and swiping a Johnny Dan swept for to exercise myself, never withstanding the top cats and his roaming cartridges orchestrating and patronooning, but all over Cromwellham Wall. Be the why it was me who ha.
All for letting his tinder and lighting be put to his to behest in the fure, and while dirbling obeisant to the phallices of the skivvies, still smoking his fervent turkish in the reeking presence of Ladios.
Ya ho, how, Cole. Whom battles join, no battles sever. Warrant you aid a comp?
But
In his difficultus tresdobrement, tresdobrement, he feels a bitvelek, a battlefell of stout, but falls a batforlake, a borrowful of bear.
And me awful armigrims between me reassociations and the postly deny past and me disconnections with apple previous futals. I've a bottle full of memories and me bosom and meters run slaws gleam as I now with platonic leave recoil in how the thickens they come back to one to rust. Me uh, misenry post for all them old boyars that's now boomeranging and woo holler. Me martyrs. I drink to them by corn spirits fuselating and you cully's adju- adjutant even where it's constanted woody with absence wormouth, jungleman and aglement. I give thee our gently sworn Theo occupant that rude and dreadful, the throne fallen ver, and all our royal devoutes, with the arrest of the whole inhabitants of Neurlands. Our brief mouth, one brief mouth, and a Vilagula lap now, Mould Astaces the Curex. If they could get a kick at this time for all that's happened to us, Cedric said Gorlamin's son, and Dano o Dunochu, and Connor o Canachar. It is this where their names, for we were all under the manor barracks sirs on Congor's Wood together, Thurkin man 3, with those Kahikriantes, our miladies in their toileries, the plum yummin sentries, Vajaris, Vajankakas, of old Dja, Unkin, who was a great mark for jinking and junking up the pose of warmth we wore, and the charm of their lives brocade. For Lisbeth hearth and Burm and I, but whim it bams fire Noron screeneth. Hope, huzzars, rise, triracy. 3 times free, up lance trees, anathema.
Who still senses the heaven-sent awareness that entertains him, who they were synovrials from the sunny Espionia, but piled whoopsie with his wallets in Thatshack of the bustle Baclaroo, 1132, passing the uninational truth bush in smoothing irony over the Multino Sherald infructuosities of his grinner set.
The rib, the queen of old buyers, Senor Sonyaviches, the road cockards that are ready to embrace our ruddy, inflammatory world, in their Scylla-Vidian Barra way, till they've kinks in their tringers and boils in their taws. Whore do the pin and lie, mere pencho? It's drumhead, Count Moridal, or gonorrheal stab. Mind your pugs and keogs, if your pigots marsh. Do the nut, ding but a dag. For Zara and Zimmer minis, sing the chorus to the ether.
In the heliotropical naught time following a fade of transformed Tough, and pending its viviseversion, a medic-nergic reglow of beaming bat, the bared board bombardment screen of tastefully gaunt geranium satin tends to teleframe and step up to the charge of a light barricade. Down the photoslope in syncopank pulses, with the bits butt-twug their tefts, their misled ropes, glitter-a-glatter-a-glut, borne by their carnea valve. Spray gun rakes and splits them from a double focus, grenadite, damnamite, alexitronite, nicolanite, and the scanning firepot of the scunners traverses the rutlanced, illustrated, sunk-sundered lines. Schlosh. A gaspal truce leaks out over the casein coatings. Amidst a fluorescence of spectacular mephitism, there coagulates through the iconoscope steadily as still the figure of a fellow chap in the woolly gassed Popio Donoso, the Juniceral of the Ruserates. The eidolon exhibices the seals of his orders, the star of the son of heaven, the girdle of Isadella the Calat Nepicmuc, the piff-puff and pom-pom of Powther and Paul, the great belt band and bucklings of the martyrology of Gorman. It is for the Cast of Mercy's Mudwake service. The victor, please to not noise speech above your dreadths, please to doughboys. He'll smithers besprintwish. He blanks his ogles because he confesses to all his televicious nieces. He blocks his nosos because he confesses to everywhere he was always putting up his latest fingers. He wallops his mouther with a sword of tusk in because that he confesses how oped he used be opening her, how on he used be undering her. He boundless old gutter his manicupes with his pederests in him as much as because he confesses before all his hand complices and behind all his confederacies. And here is Kant came back saying he couldn't steal no longer. Yes, Kant's come back because he couldn't stay awake. He touched upon his tree of livings in the midst of the garden, inasmuch as because that he confessed to it on Hillel and down Dalem, and in the places which the lepers inhabit, in the place of the stones, and in Ponferrot jugs, just forgetting Amoret now, he come to think of it jolly well rotten generously, oli over the old Blucky shop. Pugger old Pumpy o' Dungashiff. There will be a hen collection of him after Avon sung on the field of Haina. Dumble down, luties and jenkstermen. Ditin, 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 ditin.
With a gesture expansive of Mr. Lilk White Caterpollard, with sun-flowered buttonhole pulled up point blank by mailbag mundanism at Old Bally Court through the Hissendicenty buck. Far off his malevolence tells how when he was fast barking his first lord for a cremation, the wife with his Betham was the very lad's thing to alter his behind.
Prostatates, pugilistes, doleful noises, praecious, defence in every circumstantius of debaucheries know the chaste daffs, pack pickets, piogs, and queues to be palsy putrid. Be it the peen price of not forgetting or mere betoken yourself to hot a price. Correct me, pleats commando, for coast sakes, but I abjure of it. No more Basque bezigues for this pole aprican. With Ascormeals Escamillas, I had my billyfell of duckish delights the whole Puckney time on Romiots and Julians, with their lamb stools in my kidneys and my ram's butter in their Sashanasha ribs, me her, do her, and tray her, when the Ozarian come dumb like the wolf on the fjord, and we praying players and pinching peace smokes, troopkers, Tomiatskins, all, for Father Petrie Spence of Parish Most Slattery to go and leave us in the crimson dawn to Shelleyite to the Darkumen, seen the sign, Slobabog, feeding and sleeping on the Huguenots, the snuggest Spaniels where the Leons tame, and raiding revelations over the Albany Guinnesses, Sandus and Saintus and Sundus as gone. Yet still in all, spit for spat, like we chanted on Sunderscoon, every warson wearier caddies a comnate in his schlapschnack, and unlist I am getting faux gutfuls of the rugniments of the salvage wildfire, I was gamefellow willmate, and send as us victorious with Noels and Brownings, Dun, Sneak and Curry, and all the fun I had in that Finnegans Wake. A strange man wearing a barrel. And here's a gift of Megs and Tegs, and as I live by chipping Nortons, and 'tis iron fits the farmer, aye. Arc Desedo, Ren Brorambo, then when were the helliscown days for our fellows, the Royal Leapsters, and we was the redug-out raw recrutioners, Praddies 3 and Pretish 2, a wheeze we has in our Wainwoods Island, we English, one long blue streak, gisty and pithy of af duck Rossalom, with hand-to-hand as Homide KM was always jiggly-juggling about in his windowed courage, when our woos with the wenches went wine for a song, singerily zingerettes, while Woodbine Willie, so popular with the poppy rossies, our chawny Chopulane, blew it in the air. Xantlas, Banzane, Bisbasses, S. Pavondebrewall. And we're all tuned in to hear the topmast noviality. Up the revels and drown the rinks and allsmost tip all round. Paddy Ponami Vives, En Encore, and Tig for Tag, Tog a Tog Tog Tug. My dromedroost days, loved you above all the stressed. Blowhole brass hat and boy with his boots off and the butch of our bunch and all. It was Buckaroo Bonza, believe me. I was a bare preve without my dog legs, but I did not give to one humpany dump, winked or wang, touching the thus engaged slavey generals of Tanner Cornels, the militias delicious, pronouncing their very flank movements in Sun Pictor's Bosque. Baggest the what war, I could always take good cover of myself and idols or ear-wakers, prayers for rain or combinations. I did not care 3 tankers' hoots, sham, hem, or chaffet. For any feelings from my life privates on their retrograde leanings, because I have their honours booth my respectable sirs a sisterhoods off Lyndhurst Terrace, the putty Mrs. Selina Dalems, and she inventing her anger can bell the troth on her alliance, and I know his hairness, my respectable Madam's colonel on Malay Street, lightning's Gundwar Sawabs, and they would never as the Amy's of Servation let me down. Not on your bludger life, touters. No peeping pimpadors. And by Jove, I never went wrong, nor let him doom till risky walk, rasky walk at the head of the wake. Up come stumble bum, ye oldly contemptible, his Ursur and Geminal, and his scuts rudes unreformed, and he went before him in that Nemcon inchalance, with the same old domstool story, and his upleave the foreigner as is greatly to be petted, Whiteside to his beard, and I seen his Breitschlat offensive, and his Boothlas Vaden Hadenmast vice avis them, Charlotte runners, and how they gave love to him, and how he took the ward from us, odious the fly flirtation of his, him, and hers, just mermaid maddling as it was, hit he was, and my Orland for a revolver, sword by the splinters of Colt and Bung goes the enemy, the Percy rally got me, Mesker, as true as theirs, and Almagnian Gothabobus, to blow the grand off his Ascupa. This day it's meast, and after meet the Dulwich, we insurrectioned and be the procuratress of the hoary senates, before he could tell Polly Irrigun to parry Lewis, I shut him, missus, like a wild sleever, hump to dump, tumble heaver.
Campbell says sing that chant they have given Braun and Norhan and the Volker boat song is heading to see Vermahoin, but too well-bred not to ignore the zem laziest of his rifle proceedings in an effort towards autosotoriciation. It faces himself in favor of the ideology all-wise behounding his lumpy hump of homosodalism, which means that if he has lain amain to lolly his liking Cambron, he may pops Lily a young one in his hearth Cambroon.
Oh, holy rasher, I'm believer, and oh ho bully claver of ye, Bragdor General, the grand old spider, it is a name to call to him Amsterdam von. Ah, you were shutter rashottus and sieger besieged, aha, race of Fiat's marchon counter-intonation, oh ho, of sharpshooters!
Miracleizing into the Dan Differ war cry, his bigoties bristling as Jitsinju, triggery, shittery pet. He shouts his thump and fee-fa-foul Finnegans up the high hose of their Oz.
Bloody muddy muzzle, the buck beshottered. He'll unbuzzle no more graves, nor horn, no hander, loo, garoo, for gale gizzles in Dead Man's Hills. Captain, backsides to his baird, his cumbulant ambulance, the frustrate four-star Ruskak Ruskam, Dom Aleph O Corwan, Conan Durham Chuff.
Who, as best as can, with the helps of Gosh and his Bolzid maker, has been suffering to himself all the punigatories of sin practice in failing to furrow theagonies of the doomed.
Trizem the man-goat, and the name of the most merciful, the Wawagos, the gracious one, in Sobasuth and in Subas civils, and to the detriment of the curtailment of his all of man, Not sure?
Manomet scoffing, but approximately determined, but them bleaching banes will be after making a bashman's holiday out of the euphorious Hagura hygienicums of his die and be diademed.
Yatsa. In saber-tooth and sober savils, Sio Nivero that he leaves niet is my grafe. He dared me to it, and he dared me do it, and I bedattle I dare a done it, as cocksnark of Kiltork can tell, and usurin and victorious onrush with all the rattles in his Arctic. As bold and as madhouse a bull in the meadows, Knaut and Knittrick Kninky peered, Olafo the sood of FOMO times, Unknun, for when me see mim, the Tolko Kolkin Roland all over our Loud's land, the heaving up that sob of Tump for to claim his, for to wall Pim Sulph, Puddy Wuck, aye, and unchwarning his Culthone in an exodus Girosoroil Deo Jupto. At that insult to Inglorns, pronto I gave one double notch, and I ups with my crozier. Mirdo, with my how on armour, and hits leg on arrow, cockshock rock wrong, sparrow.
The abnalization of the etim by the grincing of the grossning of the grinder of the grounder of the first lord of Hertenford explodon- explodontonates through Persualia with an even more intolerable fragoromobosity, amid which's general uttermost confusion are perceivable moltons escaping with Ulysses, while Coventry plumpkins, fairy godmother themselves, them the landoligans of Piccadilly. Similar senates are projectiles from Hululu, Bolololo, Imperial, Realm, and modern atoms. They were precisely the 12 of clocks, noon minutes, none seconds, at some seat of Oldelang's conquering by Donny Brake in Asia.
Skimper Scamper, his wool's gatherings all over Cromlin, what with the Birstall boys, Arthnares, and it is her tour in the crackery of the full 455 arms and the crockery of their dam dom jumbers.
Where all Thunbombs up there is, Shatramovic?
Pulling alas Stark and Daniel with alas Doog at Dorak, while too greater than pardon painfully the issue of his mouth, doing virility of vilities, he becomes, all as vitally, faint.
Sure enough, like Von McCool.
Butt and Taff.
Desperate stave wager and bowman feudal unshackled, now one and the same person, their fight upheld to right for a wee while, being baffled and tottled, umbraged by the shadow of old Ursia's squammy mythical mula to militia man, the living by owning over the surfers of the glebe, whose sway craven minions had coursed to revile as too foul for hell under boiling Mauser's burning brand, he falls by Goal's gilly, but keen-hearted by the circumniscence of the Parks O'Reillys in a hurdly-girdly Sicilian concertone of their Fongina Barney brawl, shaken every bothy's hands, while S.E. Morehampton makes leave to E.N. Shielmartin after Meeting-house Lanigan has embarrassed Vergemount Hall, and without falter or murmur or blatheroot or sylvistalat, pugnate the pledge of fearnership duck to duck with a common turn ouched of festman and bestman, a stout Sally C. Muse notion, palms it off like commodity tokens against a cocoa can notion.
When old the worm was a gaddon, and Athena first unfoiled her limbs, Wanderlute was the way the wood waged, her opter and apter were summarized twims. They had their mutterings, ivies, and their mutterings, ides, but their moulderings, iries, in that musket grove, by there'll be bright Pliny flowers in Columilla's cool burrows, where the magpies babbles towers, scorching and screeching from the raven dove. If these lobbed the sex of his head, and mesates the seep of his troublers, he's dancing figgies to the spittle side, and shoving out the sword. And he'll be buying buys, and go giling gals, with his flossam and jessam of carm, silk and honey, where my Mianthes playing Luciferg, and what's duff as a beetle for us is makes coisins colorines mouses witter to we. So till but again Budley shoots thon rising, Germinal let boldly chow the fat of his anger and badly bide the toil of his tub.
The pump and pipe pingers are ideally reconstituted. The puther and bowls are Peter packed up. All the presents are uh, determining as regards for the future the howabouts of their past absences, which they might see on at hearing could they once smell of taste from touch. To ought find a values for the must over listenings when X what is ungiven, as add where stillhead blunk.
Wow.
Welcome to the club.
Oh. That's an exercise. Wow.
So that was chapter 2-3, part 2 from Finnegans Wake. How you feeling, Carly?
That was a wild ride. It's interesting when you can feel like okay, so it was really hard to get my brain and my mouth to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Where I could read it in my head and go, I get it. And then I try to say it and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And once I actually found once you get into the rhythm, kind of relax a little bit, let your voice change a little bit, and I kind of let like the top of my mouth relax a little bit, it's easier to get it out. That's what I found. And you're going to have a bit of a weird accent when you say it, and that's just how it's going to be. Even your voice changed.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's interesting. So now I know I'm not crazy. It wasn't just me.
Yeah, if in doubt, go Irish. I think Finnegans Wake is that.
Yeah, you know, Carly, the thing that happens to me, and I say this every time, is that there are so many words that aren't words that when there are words that are words, my brain is like, is that a word? You know?
Yeah, I feel that. This is like a really interesting experience. I've never read anything like this before. And yeah, so that's why it's such an interesting experience. And it's such like a nice brain exercise. This is like young person me attempting to read Shakespeare for the very first time. It's like that all over again.
How much does this tap back into your theatre training?
Oh, a lot. Especially one thing that I used to run into when I was much younger, I used to stutter a lot. So this was a big fear like growing up was reading out loud. So getting past that, and like Shakespeare actually helped me a lot with that because it just flows very well and you have that comfort in the rhythm. So I was a little nervous with this at first, needless to say, because you feel it coming back because it's so different. But once you let the rhythm take over, it flows nicely. It makes sense. So by the end, it was a little more comfortable with it.
Good. I was going to say sense. Really, you got sense?
Tidbits here and there. I was like, I get that. I get that too. What's happening now? I don't know, but I get that. There's a lot of that.
That's the thing that happens. You're like, I got it, and then it's like, wait, what?
Yeah, you had it.
Yep.
Yeah, and it just sort of fades away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's there's a lot of stuff going on in that chapter, and obviously with the dialogue set up. These are men telling lies to each other in a bar, drinking heavily, and
So they were not sober.
Oh
Listening
no,
to it, I'm
no
like,
one is
these
sober in
guys
this
are
book.
piss drunk. Like all I could think,
mhm.
they are so drunk, and
No one
nothing
is
they're
sober in
saying is
this
making
book
sense.
ever.
Well, let me see if
Okay.
I can give you some context. So this is what the Oxford World's Classic summarizes each of these sections, following the page and line numbering conventions that standard for this text. And one of the things, each of those interludes, those interruptions that we had, that for the readers, they were obvious because they were in italics and they were separated by square brackets. But there were five interruptions and interludes, which is the television, which is the noise of the television.
Oh.
And so those are five interruptions or interludes of televised material during the telling of the tale. And so in the outline that we'll be putting on our show notes, you'll be able to see where each of those come in. So when we get to those, so there are moments where the television turns on. So I'll describe some of those as well. So we read page 333 to 355. Which is Tales of the Inn, a chapter obscured by heavy drink, with teller and tale melting into each other. And this was the tale of how Buckley, or Butt, shot the Russian general. So from page 332.11 to 337.3, Kate brings a message to HCE from ALP, pub business. 337.4 to 338.4, transition to the tale of how Buckley shot the Russian general, calling for the double act Butt and his compeer Taff. 338.5 to 341.17, we describe the general, and then the TV show turns on, and we hear from 341.18 to 342.32 is a horse race.
So, okay, of all the
you
things.
had that one with all the names of all the horses. 342.33 to 345.33, Butt/Buckley is too intimidated to do it. In the TV again, 345.34 to 346.13 is news from elsewhere. So news shows up. 346.14 to 349.5, Butt recommences his tale but gets absorbed in memories. Then the TV turns back on again. 349.6 to 350.9, a battle charge and a confession. 350.10 to 353.21, Butt spots the general again and finally shoots. The television turns back on again. 353.22 to 32, the explosion ricochets around the world. 353.33 to 354, Butt and Taff are united. And then 355.1 to 7, the TV shuts down. And I love the final syllable of this section, blunk.
Yep.
Which is the sound of an old-timey TV turning off in its little picture tube.
In context, that makes perfect sense.
Perfect sense.
Yeah, the blunk. Oh, yeah, there it goes.
Yes.
It makes sense.
And there's a reason why we don't give that context at the beginning. We try to read it without that context. And then
it is really interesting going through it like the first time and really new to it, and then not totally knowing what's going on. I'm actually, there's a part of me that goes like, I was actually thinking to myself, God, they sound like so drunk. But I actually thought maybe I was like misinterpreting it, or like maybe I'm just thinking that because it's easy to think that, or like it was easy to get kind of lost in it. But that was a really, like, when you don't have the context, I think that's the most fun, because it's just throw yourself at it, see how good or terribly it goes, and knowing that we're all just fumbling through it, it's quite wonderful. And then we get through it together. And you're not just setting anyone up for like, surprise, no surprises.
Yeah. Oh, and we're not here to humiliate anyone.
Of course not.
It's very much just about saying Joyce wanted to test the limits of the English language, and we're going to let him. And by sort of making, TJ calls it his weekly humbling.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, do I know how to read? I will say this, though. The thing that you'll find, Carly, is that there's little things that you will take with you from the book. I still say Days as Dense as a Decade, which was from weeks ago. It's just, there's little lines and there's gems hidden in here. So, I would suggest, Carly, you interact with podcasts. Now that you have some pages, just read, and you'll find some things that jump out to you and are as poetic as Shakespeare.
Of course. One thing that I also thought was interesting is when he branches out into other languages, and especially when you catch little bits of Russian and you catch little bits of German in there, and I thought that was very interesting. And seeing like the use of J versus G, in his words. So there's a lot of like J's that were pronounced as Y's, or I'm looking at it going, it wouldn't make any sense if you said it as a J. It would have to have that Germanic Y sound to it rather than the hard J sound.
Yeah, it's very clear that Joyce is hearing these voices in his head, and he's transcribing them phonetically so that he can communicate that. He's not just saying in a German accent.
Right.
Because which one? Then you run into that.
Oh, yeah,
There's so many. As much as it sounds crazy, that is the case. It reminds me. So back in high school, I was handed we were just doing some random scene, and I was given this very old book. It was a very old script, and it takes place in Newfoundland, and it was written in the Newfie accent, and it looks so weird. And it's one of those, I'm looking at it going, what is this? And for a brief moment in time, I was able to do this Newfie accent only because the script had it phonetically written. So it's literally that's what it takes me back to. It's something I could never ever do. If someone told me, Carly, do the Newfie accent, no.
Yeah.
There's no way.
we talked about it in one of the early podcasts about how it really brings to life like Irvin Welsh and Train Spotting, which is all written in phonetic Scottish. And you just got to learn the language. And so we feel as though by doing this, we do learn the language of Wake. But then we learn it and then we forget it. And it's an interesting thing. So lots of really fun stuff in that one. A tough one, I posted on Instagram as we were reading this, and we got a message from someone saying that chapter is crazy. I was like, yeah, really, there's a lot in here. There's a lot of crazy stuff. So it's really
wild. Fun. It reminds me. It reminds me when my dad was first told me of his first time listening to the song "Come Together" by the Beatles, right. And when you don't know how they talk, it is the weirdest song in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Here come a flat top, he come grooving up slowly, got juju eyeball, he won holy roller. It's like, what are you on about?
Right. Right.
So much.
So I had a lot of little reminders of like these, like we're just kind of in a window in space and time looking into a conversation.
I love that. Well, mark today to 23rd of September is the first entry of the Beatles into the Wake podcast.
Yay!
So well done, Carly.
It's funny. I've been thinking, I was like, this reminds me of I'm the Walrus,
Yeah,
but
absolutely. Yeah. We're so glad that you were able to join us, Carly. That is all the
pleasure.
time we've had today for the Wake. But we'll return next week to take in even more tales at the inn with another one of Toby's ex-students. I've been Toby Malone, joined as ever by TJ Young. And huge thanks to Carly Derderian. Thank you for joining us this week. Please go visit Carly's Twitch channel, which we will link to. But thank you, Carly. It's always a pleasure.
It was great to be here, Toby. Come hang out with me on the channel Noah the Lost. You can hang out with Noah and I as we journey through great and terrible games together.
Fantastic. I will do that. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, and we will see you all next week, freaks and geeks. This has been Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. If you've made it this far, thank you for your dedication. Join us next week for another segment of Finnegans Wake and a chat about what we've found. Wake is a Moon Street Media podcast, engineered by TJ Young and Toby Malone. Our theme song is The Ballad of Perso Riley, arranged and performed by Meg Logue after James Joyce. Wake is recorded in Canada, where Finnegans Wake is in the public domain. For community and bonus content, join us at our free Patreon at patreon.com/wakepod. If you have questions about Finnegans Wake, don't ask us. We're just as confused as you are. See you next week.